Hello, everyone. Ron Gerber here, CEO of AngelBeat. Love doing these fireside chats, these video blogs, bringing you many innovative leaders in the world of sustainability. I'm excited to bring with you Monir Azam. Hopefully my New York accent pronounced that correctly. He is the founder and CEO of Beacon Climate Innovations, based there in Boston, right near Beacon Hill, I'm sure. And what I thought we'd do is just have Monir share with us some of the ideas and thoughts that went into his founding the company right in the middle of 2020, right during the start of the pandemic, and some of the innovative things that he is doing to help us address these terrible weather-related issues, climate change problems, energy crises, et cetera. So, Monir, why don't you start, just give a little background in yourself, why you founded Beacon Climate Innovations, and some of the main things you're working on.
Sure. No, thank you, Ron. I actually have a long background in working in renewable energy topics, going way back to the energy crisis of the 80s. And
now, I'm old like you, so I remember gas lines of 4 hours in the late 70s, early 80s.
Yes, exactly. And that actually was a topic as we were studying engineering at Tufts University, also in the Boston area, and really sort of, my career path, although it started in nuclear, weaved its way into photovoltaics and a real passion for all things sustainable. After founding a couple of startups, I actually landed at a place called Greentown Labs, which is in Somerville. Greentown Labs is the largest clean tech, climate tech incubator in North America. There's about 200 startups like my own that are located there. And Beacon Climate really has emerged as a company that is really drawing on the different technologies that are emerging at Greentown Labs.
What do you see as maybe the top 3 technologies? We know just with the law of averages, 200 startups may not all succeed just the way it is, but what do you think are some of the most promising companies or solutions you're seeing?
Well, aside from Beacon Climates, of course, there's a host of. It's really run in the crisis that we're facing and the challenges that we're facing. Yeah. I don't see it as a matter of the top 1, 2, or 3, but it's really a matter of how these different technologies are brought together into holistic solutions that are really intended to serve. They're really tailored to communities in particular.
Got it.
So that is the nature of Beacon Climate.
So in your role, are you working with a lot of these other startups you're seeing and help package them together to bring an integrated solution to these communities?
Exactly right. That is exactly it.
Got it. So a lot of them rely upon you for marketing expertise, business strategy. Is that a fair statement?
I provide a component of that facet, as well as technical, because really, in a way, Beacon Climate is trying to be a bridge to these communities. It's a community focus versus large utility scale, which brings up a whole nother set of topics. But it is really about developing a local community level energy resource that is both clean and resilient, that is centered around the community, but networked in the larger grid. So it's really a reimagining and reinventing the role of the grid in communities.
Now, are you getting involved a lot with so-called microgrids, where entities are looking to minimize their reliance on the public grid? I mean, we see it actually more on the West Coast, where literally the public grid can't provide enough energy to charge EVs. Stanford had to cancel its summer school because the fires out west force PG&E, the utility out there, to cut off power to Stanford. I mean, it sounds ridiculous if I said that a few years ago, but
Right.
today it does what happened. So is that a typical project that Beacon Climate Innovation works on?
Absolutely. No, microgrids are very central to that, and really taking the microgrid features and tailoring them both to provide during normal operations all the benefits of clean energy and what's called grid support to offset peak power. And then, of course, in emergency, the systems can island to provide resilience during exactly those types of instances. And looking particularly at providing microgrids under a community basis for the most vulnerable communities that really tend to suffer more when you have those types of outages and disasters than otherwise.
Got it. And given that you're up there on the East Coast, there's still huge snowstorms around Boston. You get further south, there's things like Hurricane Sandy that affected New York. You get further south in the Carolinas and Florida. You've got 3 months of hurricane season. All of these weather-driven issues are probably all driving so many communities, homeowner associations for looking at this. I'm just also curious, since you've got this community basis, is this also in some convoluted way that you can enhance property values? Because if you've got this kind of energy infrastructure, it's got to be more cost effective and, again, more sustainable, more reliable.
Yes, absolutely. No, it's enhancing property values. It's actually enhancing the economics in general. A lot of these measures have paybacks, within 5 to 7 years, and you create a lot of stability in your energy future. That right now, particularly today, when we're seeing gas and you get the picture. All those things are going up, but we have solar, a lot of energy efficiency measures on our house, for example, and the highest bill we've paid over the summer is $12. So, yep.
Well, okay. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure I heard the $12 figure right, and in the back of my mind, I'm just doing a quick math on what my bill is, which has a few more digits in it than that.
Right. Yeah. No, but that is, people don't realize the facets that with a well thought out solution-based approach, if you bring together sort of an array of technologies, you actually improve the value proposition from a purely financial standpoint.
That's great. So are there, besides microgrids, is there any other areas that Beacon Climate Innovations is focusing on now? So people, when they're listening to this video blog, can say, okay, oh, this is cool. Again, just for follow-up, I mean, you can go to Beacon. I think the website's beaconclimate.com, if I'm not mistaken. Kept it a little shorter because beaconclimateinnovations.com is probably too many characters to type. Yeah. So you can go to beaconclimate.com, you can go to Angel Beat, but are there any other, besides microgrids, some of the things you're focused on going forward?
Yes, absolutely. One of the projects I'm most excited about, actually, and it's working with two low-income housing facilities where we're replacing the heating systems with thermal storage heat pumps. So these are heat pumps that have built-in thermal storage, and they're actually interconnected to the local utility so that several benefits accrue. If you're familiar with heat pumps, they provide both heating and cooling, so they act as air conditioning. And in essence, they're replacing the heating system and these old window units that people have stuffed in their apartments that they keep there year round because oftentimes they're elderly and there's no space to store the air conditioners. And so these heat pumps are going to deliver roughly about 50% energy savings, much more comfortable, quiet environment for the residents. And then they're interconnected for the utility to actually control, so that if the utility is facing peak power or problems on the grid, they can turn off the power that's flowing to those heat pumps And because they have thermal storage, they will continue to deliver heat or cold, depending on the needs. Residents won't even notice it, but it's a huge value to the local utility. So this is, it's one of many examples, Ron, where there are these really innovative technologies and combination of technologies that
and it sounds like, from a Beacon Climate Innovations viewpoint, the thing that you can offer organizations, these communities who are looking at these things, is just how do you package an array of different solutions? I'm sure different solutions are more applicable in different areas. You've got wind farms going up off Block Island, so that's going to be a different solution versus what may go on in Somerville and Boston and Providence. And then probably the other thing you bring to bear is how do you go about interacting with major utilities who need to know what's going on. Again, it affects their grid. On one hand, they want stability, but there's other dynamics because, they're in the business of selling power. And if a lot of that power becomes, it'll be interesting how this plays out, because as more and more power is locally generated, locally stored, the grid might become less and less important. But if there's any problem in the microgrid and the public grid hasn't made the appropriate investments, then you potentially have a different but equally bad problem.
Yeah, no, just to follow up, and you're exactly right. More and more of the large-scale utilities are going to large-scale renewables, which is meaning, offshore wind, as you mentioned, large solar plants, but those are variable. And it's what they refer to as non-dispatchable. When you have local energy supplies and the ability to shift your energy loads with battery storage, in fact, it makes renewables a lot more reliable, and therefore it really speeds our adoption of renewable technology, makes it a lot more certain, how we use it, a lot more certain, and it speeds decarbonization. So they work hand in glove. Everybody should be welcoming a community energy supply, and that's what I was talking about, re-envisioning and reimagining the grid.
That's great. Very informative, very insightful. If people are watching this and you've got questions, you're part of a local homeowner association, you're on the board of your co-op, you're on the local zoning board approving reconstruction permits in your town. These are all the kind of individuals that should follow up with Munir and his team there to understand what you can do on a community, regional, local basis. And again, Munir and his team can help you with some of the subtleties of tying in what you're doing in a local township and how that relates to the broader behemoth public grid that can be at times a little difficult to navigate and know how to position what you're doing and get the appropriate interconnects, make sure you're doing it safely, make sure that you're not cutting off the grid completely, that you have the necessary backup, lots of complexities that have to be addressed. Well, this is great. I look forward to maybe having you speak at a future live event in Boston, hearing about all the great things you're doing.
Yeah, thank you, Ron.